Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar for another one of our West webinars. My name is Lola Adibogan, and I am West's Marketing and Admin Assistant. Our topic today is rebranding, how to know when it's time, what to expect, by the girls from Bark Design Studio, Crystal, Chelsea, and Carmen. We're so excited. If you have any questions for the girls as we go through the presentation, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A box, not the regular chat box, but do feel free to use the regular chat box to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your business. And as always, this webinar is being recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing. You receive an email tomorrow at this time with a link to the recording. With that, I'll pass it over to you girls to now begin the presentation.
I can't see myself. Okay, Lola or Josie just want to let me know that they can see me.
Yep, I can see you. We're just waiting on the screen sharing.
Okay, so hi everybody. I'm just gonna see. Let's share the screen. There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
Hi everybody, I am Chelsea Ast from Bark Design Studio. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks to Lola and Josie for inviting us on today. Super flattered to be here and talk about branding. It's definitely our passion, and the three of us, Carmen, Crystal, and myself, all bring kind of different elements to the branding table, and all have something different to offer kind of in this process. So we're excited to take you guys through what we can do for you, and how to know when it's time, and what to expect kind of in this process. So 2020, I would say, was definitely a year that we'll all remember. Tons of rebrands in the studio here. People had to get creative with their business, whether that be on a visual level or strategy level. So it gave time people to think about their business and how they wanted to restructure. They had time to think about what they could improve, and just spend a little bit more time kind of getting to niche in on their ideal clients and how to get in front of them. And it's become a very digital world through COVID. And we certainly noticed that in the last year. So people getting creative in their business, both that visual and strategy level. So you guys are looking at our presentation here. So what is a rebrand? Why do people rebrand? Why is it necessary? And everything you kind of need to know when going through a rebrand. So the biggest thing I think we talk to our clients about is standing out in a crowd. Regina is the perfect size that, a community over competition always. But what's going to make people notice your company? How do you get in front of them? How do you even determine what your ideal client is? And this is getting more difficult all the time, just with the amount of knowledge that we consume in a day. So what's going to set you apart from your competition? And quite often it's very simple tactics. Beautiful eye-catching graphics obviously is going to stop the scroll, as we say, and just being consistent and recognizable. So that consistency, seeing you all the time, even though I don't need your service today, when I do need your service, you're going to be top of mind. And then recognizable. So just having a really consistent brand that people recognize as being the same business will go so far. Obviously looking professional, so looking like you've invested in your business and that you're passionate about your brand. Understanding your brand is so important, and it should be fun. It shouldn't be overwhelming. It's an emotional thing, so we definitely want to make you look professional and understand your brand, but also have fun at the same time. So like I said, I'm Chelsea. So I started Bark Design Studio in 2010. I'm a graphic designer, as is Carmen, which you guys will meet in a little bit. And Crystal is newly on board last fall. She's our brand strategist and photographer. It's funny because we can't quite deem a title for Crystal, because she kind of does it all. She has multi roles. She definitely brings strategy to the table and has brand photography. She has a keen eye for Instagram, and she will kind of get into that when she speaks. But Carmen and I are the graphic designers, so we kind of we niched down into logos and branding about 3 years ago, because this we found was our passion. And being graphic designers, people will always say that they come to us with an idea and we kind of make it happen digitally. So for those of you that don't know what a graphic designer is, we definitely can take your ideas and your vision, and your strategy, I guess, is rolled into that as well, and make it come to life in a digital form. So quite often people will say, you guys took the idea right out of my head. And that's certainly our goal at the end of every brand project, whether it be a small tweak in your brand to a full logo package. So we have a wide range of services. We do tons of graphic designs, small jobs, but again, like I say, we've kind of niched down into that logos and branding. You'll hear us talk lots about brand consistency and kind of being professional on every platform. So making sure everything is very consistent. And when I was kind of thinking about my brand bio, which we have a formula for on our Instagram tips. So for anybody that wants to head over to our tips, we have lots of good information on there on our Instagram page. But I want to provide a very intimate level of service. So have that personal approach, which COVID has made it a little bit difficult, but whether it be through a Zoom or meeting you personally and understanding what you need and your personality so that comes through in your business. But we also want you to walk away with that agency level feel. So a branding package that is going to absolutely wow your clients. So the personal approach with that kind of agency level design at the end is really what I strive for in my business. So we'll move on to my story. I won't touch on this too much. I started my business in Calgary. So I am from Kenosi Lake, Saskatchewan. Small town Sask girl, went out to Alberta, started my business in Calgary, worked a lot in the liquor and bar industry. So a lot of the same type of graphics, menus, beer labels, all that kind of stuff. And that's coincidentally how I met my husband, Scott, who lived here in Regina. He is one of the owners of Birmingham's in the East End, with the new one going up in the north. So after working with Birmingham's and working through their kind of logo and brand process, it was a great fit. And that was the kind of the step that I needed to nudge me back to Regina. So couldn't be happier living in Regina. I do feel like for what we do and the service that we offer, Regina is the perfect size. People, when I moved here, didn't maybe care so much about logos and branding, but it's become more trendy, but people are just gaining more knowledge on branding and the importance of it and setting yourself apart from the competitor. So it's been kind of a fun evolution for me to see from 2012 when I moved to Regina to where we are now, just how far the branding in the city has come. And that could be anything from billboards to the quality of logo design, it could be so many things. So it's been really fun to see that evolution. We do tons of work in Regina. I would say my business transitioned from Calgary kind of to a lot of local clients here, but we maintain clients across North America. We work with a big clothing designer in New York. And we do kind of all types. The range of service, like the range of clients, that we have is quite broad, from small, female entrepreneurs to large companies. So we love it all, and we love the diversity. I guess it keeps our days interesting for sure. So Carmen came into my life soon after I moved to Regina, and I'm so thankful. People say we're clones. I joke that I can't even differentiate our handwriting. We're very similar. We have very similar styles. Personally and in design. So Carmen and I kind of have the same vision for branding, which is really nice that we can kind of share that and share work between clients to kind of keep it spicy. And then this year, or I guess last year, Crystal came to us in the fall. And it was just such a perfect fit. She has such a brand background and such a passion for the strategy, kind of the visuals, and then the social media piece that we were missing. Of course, I love being on social media, but the strategy behind it is quite a bit more than I ever realized. So when I met with Crystal last February about our own personal bark, she really enlightened me on the strategy behind branding, and how you can position your Instagram page, for example, to help sell without being salesy. And it just really opened my eyes to again, like I said at the start, just branding being fun and kind of not a chore. So we deem ourselves now as the blonde, the brunette, and the redhead. So quite fitting. So what do we do at Bark Design Studio? Like I said, we do graphic designs of all kinds. So we do business cards and all those smaller tasks. But again, our niche is logos and branding. So sitting down with the client and discussing what their needs are, their ideal client, what their end goals are, and then how we can kind of make that happen visually and with strategy. Having a strong brand definitely reduces the need for expensive mass marketing in our local market, especially within the last decade. Those forms of marketing have become less effective. We look at Instagram, for example, is a great way to sell. Even influencers and that type of marketing has become more effective, just because in order to have those mass marketing campaigns, you need repetition. So you need to have 10 billboards in the city to get that effect of seeing it a certain number of times to kind of become effective. And you also need huge dollars, a huge budget, which a lot of us small businesses don't have. And when we do, it's better spent elsewhere. So those the repetition and the huge dollars is just not something that everybody can afford. So a strong brand. So when I say having a strong brand, when I think of a strong brand, I think of first and foremost the logo. I also think about your presence on social media and your consistency across your printed marketing to your social to your website, and just having that consistency. So when I think of a strong brand, that's what I think of. Branding, we talk about being an emotion. So it's a feeling or perception about a business, or if it's a personal business or a hairdresser or anything. So branding is, there's the difference between a logo and a brand, which Carmen will get into later, but branding is certainly, it's the feeling about a business. Even if you haven't used the product or service, we give a couple examples here: Prada, Apple, Tim Hortons. I mean, everybody knows Tim Hortons is a very Canadian brand, and these are more corporate, on a corporate level. Russian Prince vodka, when you were in high school, you probably drank this. It was maybe a value brand vodka. So without even having tasted or, used the product or service, you already have, because of their branding. I always use the Coca-Cola trucks. Or even Pepsi, I guess, maybe a better example. You see the real lifestyle fun photography. They're cracking a cold Pepsi and it's on a hot summer day. Their logo isn't splashed on everything, but it is about the brand and the feeling that it evokes. Some local examples, we were talking earlier, and some local examples of a feeling about a brand without ever using or experience the brand, maybe Wheelhouse in Regina. So everybody knows this upbeat, hip fitness, and I've never been to Wheelhouse, but I very much have a feeling about them and their brand. Another one may be Fat Plant Farm. So Kate is very knowledgeable, and it's this earthy, very plant-based business, and without ever purchasing from her, you may have that kind of that feeling based on seeing her marketing somewhere. Okay, and I'm going to flip it over to Carmen now, and I will be back. We're just going to do a little share in the office here, so stay tuned. Can you see me? Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Carmen. As Chelsea said, I am one of the designers here at Bark, and I'm going to give you kind of a rundown on Branding 101, and we've made a little kind of cheat sheet on how to get started when you're thinking about doing a rebrand. So I guess first and foremost, like the general definition of branding comes from cattle branding, which is kind of funny. I didn't actually know that, but it makes a lot of sense. So the stamping of a small identifying mark on something, which a lot of people, and I'm going to speak to this in a minute, a lot of people think that their logo needs to be all encompassing of their brand, but it really doesn't. Your logo is the simplest form of your brand. And then the look and feel, which is your branding, point 2, I guess. The distinctive design is the brand that is built around the logo. But the logo itself, the logo mark, is a simple identifying icon, and the brand is the bigger picture around it. So we have created here Branding 101. If you're thinking about starting the rebrand journey, here's some things to consider that will point you in the right direction and guide all of your decisions along the way. So starting the journey, your logo is not your brand, as I just said. The logo is a stamp that represents the brand, but the brand itself is the sum of the feeling, the values that encompass what you are and what you do. So like we have a lot of clients who come in and want all the ideas in one. Like we're a clothing store, so we want a hanger in the logo, but we also have a corner where we sell plants. So we'd like a leaf as well. And then we also do custom greeting cards. So maybe a little pen. And then you can also rent the space out for shopping parties. So maybe balloons. And it's just, you can't have everything. The logo doesn't need to have everything. It needs to be a memorable and identifying mark, but it doesn't need to have everything but the kitchen sink included. So that's the first thing to consider. Next, we talk about finding out who your ideal client is. What are they attracted to? Because those are the people that you want to notice your logo. Consider their tastes almost ahead of your own personal tastes. You have to niche down to who that person is. Like if your favorite color is pink, but you're trying to sell financial somethings, maybe pink isn't the way to go. Think of the person that you want to buy this and what they would be attracted to, and that will guide your decision-making process. Then 3, what is the main application for your logo? Is it signage? Is it apparel? Will it be printed anywhere? Will it be printed in color? And will it be printed in black and white? So like if you're a home-based business and you're not going to have signage anywhere, you're going to be doing most of your marketing on social media, online, that's something to consider because certain logos they don't look as good when they're small on your phone. Maybe you need something that's more bold, that doesn't have a lot of filigree to it, things like that. If you're in a heritage building downtown and you need to put signage up, there's a lot of guidelines around that. So things to consider.
Can you go full screen on the slide? So just on the PDF, if you can go full screen.
I don't know where that is.
PDF up top. I think it should be full screen.
If you press the keyboard's key Control L, it should go full screen.
Randall, Control L.
No.
Is it just teeny?
They're saying the slides are small.
Oh, it's full screen on here. Oh, sorry, guys. Where is it at here? Oh, yes. So signage, if you have a specific signage requirements, that's also something to consider. Like I said, the heritage buildings downtown, you can't just slap any sign you want on them. So that's something to think about. If you have a building you love and you're going to be in for the foreseeable future, but you're 50, 100 yards off of the road, that's also something to consider in a rebrand because your signage and your logo is going to need to be bold and big so you can see it from afar. So all things to think about. So 5 things that make for effective logo design: simple, memorable, timeless, versatile, and appropriate. These are always things that we preach on, and timeless is a big one. Your logo can evolve over time. That's something that is fine. Like in a couple of years, you could change a font, or you could take a logo that has multiple colors and maybe simplify it down to a one color. But we find that people like to do things that are trendy in a rebrand, and we always try and persuade away from that, just because, like anything, in a couple of years, what that trend was is gone, and now your logo looks dated and you have to start all over again. So it's better to start with something that's not highly trendy because it can always evolve. But if it's very, very stylized and very on brand or on trend right now, it's going to fade and go away with time. So that's the biggest one for us. And appropriate, I think if you look at all of the checks that we have on here, that kind of will naturally come if you think about what you're selling, who you're selling to, and what they're looking for. Appropriate to what you're selling will kind of naturally come. So we have the branding checklist, 5 things to get you started in the right order. So first is to clarify your vision. What are your goals for the brand? Do you want to stay a local company, or do you plan to evolve and move bigger, expand into bigger centers? Do you want to keep your business until you stop working in it or retire, or do you plan to have a business that you want to sell someday? These are all things to consider when you're starting your branding journey. Second, find your niche, which we talked about. Who is your ideal client? And if you go onto our Instagram, I don't think it's there right now, but we will put it up later. We have a post on identifying your ideal client, the demographics, which is things like age, gender, income, occupation, and then also the psychographics, which are like values, interests, lifestyle. These are all things that you can sit down and write them all out, because the way you sell to, say, a 20-year-old girl and the way you sell to a wealthy middle-aged man are completely different, and the look that they want. So it's really important to write those out, and that'll really help you niche down, and it'll really make a lot of your branding choices very easy if you know who you're selling to from the start. Next is the logo and branding. Work with us or, or any designer, but work with a designer who's going to help you figure out all of these things. If you don't already know them, a qualified or designer will help you figure out a niche down to what you're looking for and help you clarify your vision if you're not sure on that either. So that's really important. Then the consistent social media, once you have that logo and branding, consistent social media can roll off of that so easily. It all pays forward. Once you have the brand, your social media presence, it can roll off of that really easily. Like colors, fonts, the language you use, the imagery you use will all really easily spin off of a well-built logo and brand. And then after that comes your website, which again, same thing, it all pays forward. The consistent look, the fonts, all of that will spin really quickly off of the already existing logo and branding if it's done well from the beginning. It makes the whole rest of the journey quite smooth. So important to start off with the right vision to the right person from the get-go. So now Crystal is going to come talk to you guys a little bit about something else.
Hi, Crystal. Before you get going there, let's try and make it full screen. If you click view, there should be a full screen option. Just so.
Did I just make it smaller? Oh, okay.
Or if not, we can just click the plus sign where it says 92.5%. We can make that go bigger. Thank you.
Yeah, oh, how do I go to the next page?
The arrow is this one.
Okay, is that better? Do I need to?
Yeah, it's much clearer.
Okay.
You can minimize the sidebar if you want, like the little arrows that are on the side. If you click them, I think that will make it smaller, but it's good now.
It's okay? Okay. Just let me know if we can do something differently.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Crystal. Like Chelsea mentioned, I joined BARC last year, and yes, I wear lots of different hats, but branding has definitely been one of my passions. As a photographer, I realized quite quickly that doing branding photography without a strategy was a lot like a firework. Like it might look good, but it's not landing. So with kind of that realization, I did a lot of research and diving into just strategy behind branding. And yeah, it's become something that I'm really, really interested in and quite passionate about. So anyways, I'll kind of get into things here. We did send the branding checklist for you guys to go through prior to our Zoom. We were going to break it down and kind of number things as important or more, or have some of them as worth 5 points and some worth 1, and then have like a running tally at the end. But what we realized is that we can't be the ones to decide that you need a rebrand. It is so personal in your brand that yeah, it just didn't make sense for us to kind of push you into this box that said, well, you got 20 points, so it's time for a rebrand. I'm going to talk about each one of those points individually. So yeah, we'll start with one. Are you happy with the current service space? Are you planning on expanding to a different city, province, or country? A lot of times your business might not apply to the new service space. For example, like North Canadian construction, if they wanted to start working in the United States, like they're probably not going to be really relevant to their new market if their name has Canada in the brand, right? So just changing markets and location is such a no-brainer. A lot of times, if it's even switching to a different province where it might be bilingual, or you're moving to Montreal, you might need a name change that literally speaks to the new audience. So I think that's kind of an obvious one that you might need a rebrand if your name or your branding doesn't apply to your new service base. Number two, are you happy in the current physical location? So this one, a lot of clients that we've had have actually needed a rebrand because they are moving locations. Something as simple as a building change, like because your brand is all encompassing, you might have a very relaxed, maybe in-home salon, and maybe your entire business is really casual, really personal, just kind of something along those lines. But once your business moves into a point where you're like, you know what, I think that we need a physical location that's outside of the home, it's time to up-level the casualness of this business. I want to attract different clients. I just have a different feel that my business is going to be taking because of the location change. I might as well rebrand. Something that we've noticed is when you don't have clarity around your visuals to accompany your written copy, and vice versa, there might be a sign, or it's probably a sign that your branding isn't complete. So if you're struggling to think about how to position yourself, or if you are struggling to come up with the copy, the written words that accompany your posts, it's a sign that your brand is just lacking direction and clarity. So at that point, it might be a good time to evaluate all parts of your business and consider a rebrand. So that was 3 and 4. Do you find yourself hesitating to post on social media? Or 6, are you continuously attracting your ideal client? So 5 is kind of like 3 and 4 in a way, but if you feel that there's a hesitation in your posting because you don't think that you're able to attract your ideal client based on the visuals that you have, it's a sign of a necessary rebrand. So Carmen did touch a little bit on attracting your ideal client, but sometimes we have this idea of who our ideal client is, and we're trying so hard to reach them, but we don't have the resources to understand what is attracting them. So what we do is just really helping you identify your ideal client and giving you the resources to attract them. So whether that be the beautiful infographics that you need, or the graphics that you can make a really beautiful Facebook post or Instagram post. That happens quite a bit, where there's so much excitement regarding your business, but you just don't feel like you have the resources to know how to reach your dream clients. So when that happens, usually it is a sign that you need to tweak something within your business to really kind of ignite that excitement for yourself, and then also excitement for your ideal client. Okay, 7, do you feel proud when you show your family and friends your business? And then number 8, do you feel like you could charge more for your product or service, but aren't sure how? I think that one of those times where you know that there is something that isn't in alignment, you know that there is something that just isn't jiving. You know you want to be here, but you don't know how to get there. And sometimes a rebrand with a professional team can help you really identify how to get yourself from here to there. A lot of times here at Bark, our clients have said, like, you've taken the ideas right out of my head. And we're professionals at really laying the groundwork of how to attract what you're looking for. So when you're not feeling proud of what you've visually created, but you know that there's so much growth potential and income potential, that disconnect is just such an obvious sign that a rebrand would be ideal for you. 9 and 10, have you ever found yourself putting out public relation fires? Are you regularly defending your business? So sometimes there are unfortunate circumstances where maybe you've said the wrong thing, or an employee has said the wrong thing, and there's been some bad press surrounding your business, or there have been actions that haven't really gone over super well. This could be as simple as like rebranding in the way of changing your voice and changing, and when I say voice, I don't mean your physical voice, I mean your voice within your brand. Really just changing how you are delivering your mission and your values. And sometimes I have Domino's as an example here. Domino's had a focus group as they started strong as a business, and because of, I think it was their fast delivery time really set them apart. And they started losing money once other pizza restaurants started delivering pizza, which makes sense. As their product wasn't very good, they had a focus group that they actually ended up releasing to the public, where the consumers in this group were talking about how their pizza was just a horrible product. And they actually used that video and took potential consumers through the process of their product rebrand to kind of gain momentum and get people really excited about the changes. So just acknowledging where you've done wrong or shortcomings, and then just kind of going from there, and sometimes even just changing a visual within within the brand can help potential consumers acknowledge that there has been a change in something that's happened in your business. Number 11, this is actually a fairly common one, where has there been a recent change of ownership or leadership? Sometimes there's nothing wrong with your brand, but with the change of ownership and leadership, people have clients have chosen to kind of reignite their excitement for the brand and kind of just get some more hype surrounding their business with the change of visuals or with the change of something within their brand, just to kind of reignite some passion. So with that branding checklist, I think that you might get kind of a feel of when it's the right time for you. It really has to be a decision that that you have to make considering your finances, the time that it takes to do all of the rebranding steps, but also your current clients, depending on the size of your business. Rebranding without or like an unexpected rebrand might confuse your client base. So it's really important to come at it from a very strategic standpoint so that you can evaluate how and when to go about it. And I think that is the last one for me. Okay. Ooh, I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay. And Chelsea is back. Okay, thanks for bearing with us while we change speakers here. We figured this would be the best way in the office. Okay, so Crystal took you through that branding checklist. If you guys have any questions at all about any of these points applying to your business, or maybe you feel like they apply, like she said, and overall branding is an emotional process. We want you to be ready. We do a lot of discovery calls with people that think they're ready, and we just really want you to be super excited about the process and ready to dive in, because it does take, she talked about investment, it takes more of an emotional investment to put yourself in the position of wanting that change. So that's really important to us, is that you are ready to take those steps. You know, there's content and there's a little bit of work on your end when it comes to kind of finding out which direction you want to go with your rebrand. So okay, so we call this modern branding. So technology has had such a huge role in our lives. Well, maybe we do acknowledge it, but we consume so much information in a day. I hate that little notification that pops up on Sundays. I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but that says this is how many hours, and that's just on your phone. So when we're at work, we're researching, we're, you know, whether it be at our work or in our personal lives, we consume so much information. Some of it is very subtle, whether it be in the form of billboards or, you know, just information that we consume. General advertising or traditional advertising just isn't cutting it the way that it used to. Again, this is all dependent on the area in which you live. We're kind of doing our speech today based on a Regina market. Of course, that can expand. We have clients here in Regina. We also have clients in Canada and North America. So kind of speaking to it in a matter of a local kind of business. There was a study done at the University of California, kind of breaking it down to the exact amount or giving an average to the amount of information that we consume. So we're overwhelmed with information every day, and they're saying that it amounts to 34 gigabytes of information. And I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but it is enough information to overload a laptop within a week. So it's a ton of information. We talk in, you know, hard drives and all that in more of a techie kind of language, but 34, when I read this fact, I think I was like blown away, not even just
like shocked. I was blown away by it. So it's a lot of information that we consume every single day. So what does this mean for us in branding? We need to stand out. So we need to be that post that catches your eye in the scroll, or we need to be that website that you click on and within the first 5 seconds, you know you want to stay there. And quite often that kind of instinct for us starts with the visual, and then the strategy plays a part in it as well. But we need to stand out for sure visually, be consistent. And then again, like we talked about before, just that repetition. So showing up the same, even in person, we talk about brands, and that's maybe something we didn't touch on today, but what you wear, how you act, the personality of your brand also gets kind of rolled into it. So just being consistent and authentic, I think is where we want to see everybody in their brand. This is a branding theory that kind of Crystal brought up and we were talking about, and it's called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. That's a mouthful. So the frequency illusion, and I'm sure you've all experienced this and maybe just didn't know the exact name of it, but once you encounter something new, you see it everywhere. And so we were trying to think of examples of this. And so it came up, vehicles. So I'm in the process of buying a new vehicle right now. And I thought I had, you see one Ford Edge, or that's a terrible example because they're everywhere, but you see a vehicle, or you think about buying a vehicle, or you're interested in a vehicle, and then you see that same white SUV everywhere. Dogs, you're looking at a dog and you found this hypoallergenic dog that you think is, and then everywhere you start seeing lab, like it's just because you're aware of it, right? Baby names, something that I'm going through right now. You pick a name and then you start hearing it everywhere. It's just one of those things that until you've actually consciously thought about that name, it doesn't register with you, right? One that Carmen and I joke about, or the three of us for that matter, is fonts. We come up with this amazing font, or we do a logo with this new font and we think we're genius and it's never been seen before. And then suddenly you start seeing that font everywhere. So once we enter the awareness of our client, we need to be consistent with our visuals and our values and our services. And we need to show up online in the same nature. We've heard multiple studies say that potential consumers say that we need to see a product, 15 to 40 times before they buy it. And I think that number maybe changes depending on the context, but 15 to 40 times is a lot of times to see something. I touched on billboards earlier. If you keep seeing the same thing over and over, it's going to eventually register. And as I said before as well, you may not need that product or service right now, but when you do, it will be top of mind. This is a perfect example. So we have an example in here of being overseas and seeing the golden arches. So I lived in Australia for a couple of years, and after being there for about 2 weeks, you miss home and you're feeling a bit homesick. And the first McDonald's I saw, I was just enlightened. I was so excited and I couldn't wait to go. I don't even like McDonald's, but it was just that comfort of home. It was something that it's just reminiscent of something that we know, right? Being in a place that we aren't familiar. So that's a perfect example. And then another example we have here is that there's several real estate agents in Regina that are more prominent. If I was to go buy or sell a house today, I would probably think of them because I see them all the time. Now, I have no idea how long they've been in business. I have no idea how successful they are, or much about them for that matter, but just seeing their face on those bus benches and seeing those several times just kind of instills that trust in the fact that they're investing in their business, I guess, right? Okay, so Crystal touched a little bit about, are you in need of a rebrand? And we talked about, like she said, scoring that survey and saying, putting you into categories like, yes, it's coming up soon, or no. And again, you just have to be ready. So I think that what each and every one of you need to do, if this is something, and I mean, it may not be today, you may be in on this talk because branding interests you, and that's awesome. In 5 years time, or 10 years time, or 15 years time, we just hope that this will kind of set off alerts in your mind that say, maybe it is time for a rebrand. So whether it be today or in 5 years, the process will be fairly similar on a rebrand. Consider your goals. So the girls touched a little bit on this, but where do you see yourself in a year? And this could be for a new business starting out or someone that's been in business for a long time. So where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Is there a move? You know, consider some of those things in that checklist for sure. We talk lots about your ideal client, which we'll put up on our Instagram tips. And then how do you plan on getting in front of them? Where do they hang out? Kind of that kind of attitude. So really just diagnosing and breaking down. And that's where I say the little bit of like self-work comes from, is just really diving into how can I get in front of, like, first determine who your ideal client is, and then how can I get in front of them. And then like I said, the rebrand process can range vastly in price. And the one example here that we have is the Victoria's Secret $0 rebrand, and they are a massive organization, obviously. And all it took for them to rebrand was to take their previously known zero size models, perfectly photoshopped in this absolutely perfect image that maybe didn't appeal to everybody. And they just tweaked their brand by changing their models. So from there, having all sizes, all colors, all encompassing models, that $0 rebrand has completely skyrocketed their business and kind of made it more acceptable and more inclusive. Yes, that's a great word, for everyone to kind of be interested in and to catch everyone's attention. It also kind of depends on the size of your business. Do you have lots of printed documents? Does your logo appear on letterheads? I had a discovery call yesterday with somebody and they're considering a rebrand, but she was worried about having 300 business cards. That is not a huge expense. Business cards are about $50 for 250. So I said, when you're ready, you'll know. You may have to recycle those business cards, but it really depends on the size of your business and how much branded material you have. A small entrepreneur versus a huge corporation. We've just done a huge corporate rebrand for a financial company here in town, and there was just a lot of pieces which we explained to them prior, and they were aware of before the branding process. And quite honestly, once that first brand piece is done, it starts with a logo, then we develop the supporting brand around it, the emotion and kind of that part of it, the colors, fonts, that repetition and that consistency piece. And then all of those pieces really fall into place fairly quickly. So as far as process goes, the process of a rebrand is executed quite seamlessly if you go through the process properly. Signage, corporate documents, like I said, it started with the logo and strategy. So that's something that Crystal really focuses on, is does that strategy align, and are you ready to invest the time to kind of dive into that strategy? So we have on here, your brand is everything your business touches. Vision, mission, values. Even though those things may not be in print, we want you to be aware of them for your business. So when somebody asks you, my sister said the other day, she asked me, what's your mission, I think, and they didn't have an answer. So just having an awareness of your brand that you can actually answer those questions. It doesn't all have to be done at once, and I'll break that through on the next page. But of course, we love a powerful brand relaunch, the wow factor, the oh my God, have you seen X? That is so fun for us. The curiosity and excitement and getting people reignited in their brand, just that brand passion is so fun to see. It can also be done in baby steps. So whatever, your time and your budget allows for, we can certainly work with you, or any branding agency should be able to work with you in that capacity. The big brand relaunches we've done this year is ATA Financial. So they went from 3 separate advisors to one kind of powerhouse team. Again, just putting out all of the documents, the signage and all the paperwork and all the kind of print marketing that goes with it. So that was one. We recently rebranded wine kits here in Regina to Winecraft, and that rebrand was based on a change of ownership. Actually, they tick a lot of those boxes. Change of ownership, new ideal client, so just tweaking their business, a new product line, which will then change their demographic. And just an overall tone and strategy in their brand that they wanted to change, just kind of old-fashioned values with a previous owner and just kind of tweaking so it it really made sense to kind of update everything at once. And then Palazzo Designs, or Palazzo Landscape Designs, was another one that we did. So taking her fairly dated logo, evolving it, even though when she came in, she wasn't sure. The excitement for her brand and her brand passion when we were done is just, it makes it very rewarding and all worthwhile. So one that's been done in baby steps I might refer to is Billa Chic out in Emerald Park, and they have a store in Moose Jaw. They had a logo and somewhat of a brand, and all we've done for them is take little bits and pieces and knocked off the block to kind of rebuild or build the brand supporting the logo and the clothes they sell and kind of the culture that they represent. So that would be a good example of, you know, little social media posts here and there. It might be a template, it might be a poster, a campaign, little things like that that just help to build the brand. So if and when you're ready, if any of you are thinking about a rebrand, obviously talk to a brand advisor. And like I say, there's definitely the question and answers here. We encourage everyone to reach out to us. If you're thinking about it or have any questions, we offer a 30-minute discovery call. We really want you to be ready, but we want to explain the process to you according to your business. So every business is a little bit different. And we need you to understand these kind of necessary steps, you know, according to your business. So again, we preach that consistency, the same logo, the colors, the supporting documents to support your brand. And like I said on the last page, not everything has to be done at once. So choose what's important to you and kind of make a plan of action. And that could be over a year or what have you. The pieces to consider when you're thinking about a rebrand, and I'll touch quickly on this because I know we're running out of time. The logo is first and foremost. Whether you have a logo that you're happy with, and we can certainly work with that. That is when we have a discovery call, we send out a quiz and we kind of get a little bit of feedback. If your current logo is something that you're happy with, we can certainly work with you to build that supporting brand. The next point is supporting brand. So a visual representation of how your brand should always look. This includes colors, right down to that hex code that will appear in social media and print marketing and anything that you print your brand on. Fonts, and then the usage. How should I use my brand? What logo is appropriate where? When should I use the abbreviated logo? And all those things that maybe you hadn't considered. Crystal's our brand photographer, so we always highly recommend brand photography to just really align and to keep everything very consistent within your brand. She has a really good eye for capturing the essence of a brand and then something that will attract your ideal client. Your written copy, so something we don't offer in-house, but we work with several copywriters depending on your brand tone, so depending on your business, corporate or casual. This is always something, if you're struggling with the content and the writing, we always encourage a copywriter, even just to get you started and to figure out and establish that brand tone. Social media graphics we can do in-house here, or we can certainly help you if you're a Canva user and you're proficient on there. We can certainly provide templates or help you and guide you in any way that we can with those graphics to kind of scatter in your brand to be professional and kind of consistent. And then print marketing and any additional brand graphics. So that includes business cards, email signatures, signs, brochures, etc. And then the other considerations with it, which I touched on, are timelines and budget. Sometimes somebody needs a rebrand for a certain event. Those are always things to consider kind of right from the start, just so that there's no surprises as we're working through the process. And then just contact details. So you guys are going to receive this PDF from what I understand. Definitely follow us on Instagram if you don't already. We post on Facebook as well. Visit our website. We try to keep that as up to date as possible. We have so many exciting logo projects on the go right now, and branding for that matter. So we're so excited to get those up on our social media. We're on our stories lots with tips and tricks for branding. Like I said, refer to that tip highlight, and reach out anytime via email at this info@barkdesignstudio.com or on our Instagram. Crystal's always on our Instagram @StirringAway. So any questions at all, you guys can post them below and we will be free to answer those here now if we have a little bit of time. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and I hope that we were able to answer all of your branding questions. And if not, then certainly send us a message, and we look forward to hearing from you. And thanks to Josie and the girls and Lola for having us. Bye.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was wonderful. I'm getting some comments in the chat saying the same thing. And thank you all for volunteering your time and for those who took time out of your lunchtime to join us today. Really appreciate that. While we kind of look and see if there are any extra questions, next week we have another webinar, and it is titled Using a Coach Approach on Diversity and Inclusion Issues. It will be presented by Betty Mochwari, who's an executive leadership coach and consultant. Registration is now open for it. So if anyone is interested for that, make sure that you're registered. I do see a question. Oh yeah, there's one question from Tracy. It says, what are your thoughts on using a personal name for a brand?
Okay, so I can answer that one right now. Naming of a business is quite personal, obviously. I think that my opinion on this topic, and it maybe require a little more thought, and depending on the content of the business, if you're a hairdresser or somebody selling a product, if you plan to expand your business, it will definitely limit you. If you plan to get married, that's the call I had yesterday. She was in the process of possibly changing her name, so it can limit you. And selling it, yeah. If it's going to be a very personal brand and there's not going to be employees, again, having said all that, your brand can evolve. If you start as Chelsea Asked Graphic Design Studio and you evolve, there's ways that we can help you maintain your existing clients and change your, it is a bit of a process, but it really comes down to, and I think you said it was Tracy. If Tracy wants to reach out, we can certainly go through our opinions on the type of business that she has and whether it would be appropriate.
That's wonderful. I hope that answers your question, Tracy. If there are no more questions, I will now, oh, there's another one. There's two more, never mind. Do you see the questions, or would you prefer for me to be reading them?
Do we have time? I can't see the time on my computer, but maybe I will, should I stop my screen share?
Oh, yes, if you want.
Okay, and then I will just see if, there we go. Okay, this one's from Amber. Do you have suggestions and strategies on choosing a business name? We get asked this a lot, actually. Definitely, I think a focus group would be, what would you girls say? Focus group for a name. And obviously, I mean, we're gonna just hammer it home, but considering your ideal client. So depending on the type of business, what is gonna attract them? And we had a conversation this morning about, are you designing a business around your likes, or are you designing it around your ideal, and what's the middle ground there? I think that if you want to sell your product or service, considering your ideal client for the name is always going to be, and not having, I mean, this is totally off topic, but Bark Design Studio is quite long. So having something catchy, memorable, we may even have a tip on our highlight. If we don't, I'll get it up there about naming a business and kind of the things to consider. Catchy, memorable, easy to spell. We've had a couple logos this last year that have an extra E and that's really caused some confusion. So just not leaving any room for confusion. You want somebody to be able to type in your domain or find you on Instagram. So I would say ease of use and your ideal client would be my top two things. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I just think like, once you type it into Google, should be one of the only things that come up.
Yeah, original, I would say.
Yeah.
Crystal's saying if you type it into Google, you want to be not findable. Searchable. Yeah. Does that answer your question? I hope so.
I think those were all the questions. So I will now end the webinar. Thank you so much, girls. This was a wonderful presentation, and hope to keep in connection. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.